Hey everybody, you're listening to A to Z episode 38. Today's guest is DeAnn Wills, Supervisor for Spindletop Center's PATH program.
It's like they're trying to be too meta.
We're gonna make them an offer they can't refuse.
Much better.
Yeah. You can buy you a drink. You can't just
Well, I mean, he did pick out somebody we know.
Well, you sidestepped the question. That technology does not exist.
Hey, everybody, what's up? I'm Zach. I'm here with my co-host, Aaron.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome to A to Z. If this is your first time listening, thanks for checking us out.
A to Z is produced sort of weekly, and show notes can be found at atozpodcast.com. If you like what you hear, feel free to hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or a host of any other places where you get your podcast fix.
You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at A to Z BMT, where you can find updates, clips, extra content, as well as the Facebook groups, A to Z Podcast Group and A to Z Movie Night, The Groupening. So today's guest is DeAnn Wills. We had a great time sitting with her. She's the second guest that we've had from Spindletop Center, who is a great organization that specializes in mental health for the Southeast Texas region.
And we really like to get those guys on here as much as we can.
Yeah, and I think they're going to send us more, too. I'm pretty excited.
I'm excited. We got into a host of topics in this one. We got into alcoholism, drug abuse.
Yeah, we started thinking that it was going to be mostly about alcoholism, but she actually specializes. That PATH program is it's like the program for awareness of transition to homelessness, or I don't know the exact anagram to it, but it's about. We talked a lot
lines
about
it out in the episode.
Yeah,
there's definitely a link between homelessness and alcohol abuse and drug problems and things like that too, and we explore that. So it's not. I would say that the episode isn't as heavy as we're making it sound right now. I think you'll have a good time when you listen to it. You might have some things illuminated for you. You might have some homeless people humanized. So
yeah, and we learned a lot about how they're working with the police and everything like that. So so enjoy this episode. And if you like what you hear, as always, hit subscribe, leave reviews and some comments. We definitely want to hear your feedback.
Smash that subscribe button.
Yeah, so enjoy this episode with DeAnn Wills.
I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die.
In Spindletop, there's like...
So Family Protective Services, you go directly to PATH?
And that's like what we call the IBD, adult mental health.
And you are the Supervisor of Family Protective Services.
Right, that's my official title, but I'm the supervisor for the PATH program.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Many hats. Got all them hats.
I didn't want to get all I get everything wrong.
That's okay.
Every time.
Yeah.
Got all them hats.
PATH is a federal and state-run program. I believe there's 16 PATH programs in Texas.
Okay, and they're kind of spread to different regions.
Yeah, they're different regions.
Well,
right,
hey
under
everybody,
the-
we're here's A to Z. Yeah, we're
Welcome
in.
back to another episode, yeah.
Before we get too much further, I hit record a little while ago because we started talking about important things.
Okay.
So we're here with DeAnn Wills. Is that
DeAnn Wills.
DeAnn Wills? She is the supervisor of the PATH program, which is Projects of Assistance in the Transition from Homelessness, which you just said, actually. And then also Family Protection Services. You're like the head of that.
Well, that's just my title.
That's your title? Okay.
Yeah, I work for Spindletop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, more importantly, she works for Spindletop Centers, and we invited her here today to kind of talk about alcohol culture, alcoholism, different things like that. We'll get into, hopefully we'll get into a lot of correlations about, since you are the supervisor of PATH, maybe we can talk about what leads somebody down that path, maybe how to get out of it, the correlation between alcoholism, substance abuse, stuff like that. And then also just maybe brush up on some psychology terms. I see you brought your DSM-5.
Right.
So we can maybe clarify little things. That was one of the first things me and Zach talked about in here is we were just like, let's get her in here. Maybe she'll tell us whether or not we're actually alcoholics, you know. So
I think we are by the book, honestly.
I think by that book, I think we are. I think we're like binge alcoholics or something. I don't know. Something like that, you know.
But maybe
in the old terms we would be like social drinkers / abusers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was social drinker a term they used to use? They just call it a social drinker?
Yeah, that would be like, experimentation, like you drink at occasions where there's alcohol maybe, or you might
go to
have
a tavern. Yeah.
Or you go to a wedding or a party and you have a few drinks and Other than that, you don't drink. Maybe you don't drink at home, or you don't intentionally go out to just drink.
Is that considered a form of alcoholism, even socially?
I think that's probably the beginning stages.
Too, yeah.
Okay,
Beginning
so that's
stages.
what
It's everything in like recovery, mental health, substance use, which they tie together. Substance use disorder is a mental health issue. That's why it's listed in the Diagnostics and Statistics Manual. And so then you have that whole thing of people believing that it's actually a disease or not.
Yeah.
But in the beginning stages, they say experimentation or social drinking. You just start it out and then it progresses. It's very progressive if you are that person.
Yeah, if you have the addictive personality
or however it affects you. It's really what gets us going into it. And for me, I believe it's some untreated or unresolved issues that the individual may have.
You start nursing it with.
Right. It's actually can become a solution for people until it becomes a problem, and that's the difference. If I see it as a solution, then I'll never be able to see it as problematic for me.
Right.
Where others
that
can.
makes sense. Yeah.
If that's my go-to. I have to be able to see that there's a problem and then be able to be willing to get the help that I need to recover. And so
it's always funny to me how people don't even think about alcohol as a drug. It's a really weird disconnect that people have, and something they have where they separate the two, where it's like, man, alcohol, that's one hell of a drug, really, honestly,
Yes, alcohol is a drug.
It is, yeah.
It's a mood-altering substance.
But people don't think of it that way. I think that might be
too.
A lot of it is because it's socially acceptable. It's legal.
It's very socially
it's
acceptable.
very legal.
It's promoted in everything that we see and do everywhere. I mean, from TV commercials.
Well, there's hit songs that are shot, 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 shot,
Right.
shot,
Yeah.
shot.
and a lot of
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think that's part of that culture we were wanting to dive into. It's for a lot of people. Like, so I think for myself, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but for myself, when it comes to like drinking, most of it has to do with that social aspect. We're talking about social drinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no, I guess there are like coffee houses, but that's a drug also. But, it's, where else are you going to go have your Saturday night meetup? It can be really hard for people, I guess, to say, to like, not necessarily turn that down, but just kind of like give that up. What are you supposed to do if you don't do that? Play canasta? In the house.
I think for every person,
I'm not
right?
trying to,
I think it's different for all. For myself, like I shared with you, I am in recovery. I'm sober 16 years as of June 4th. So the first few years of my sobriety, I avoided any places or people. I had to change everything in my life to avoid that, and then replace it with some sort of a support system. Building a new way of life, of not having to use. Now I can go, like we love listening to a friend of ours play music. And
so now you can actually go to a bar.
Yeah, and my husband and I are both in recovery, so we go and listen to our friend. He's actually sober too, although he plays in the bars, So for each person it's different. It's really about, to me, if we're actively recovering, stopping using is not always the issue. Many times we can stop. We just can't stay stopped because we're not addressing the real issues.
Right.
The alcohol and substances can be just a symptom.
Right.
Of, even though it looks like the problem, but really the problem lies within us.
And it's kind of like someone's self-medication sort of thing.
And that's a lot of times how it can start out. With substances, it can be an injury.
Yeah, absolutely.
A surgery, a back surgery where the pain is
Or just
so
a lower
great.
back pain.
You're prescribed heavy, very addictive medications. And then whenever it's time to stop using them, you can't.
And they don't really do anything to get you off of them, do they? Not many doctors
I think it's really changed. That whole face of all of that, I believe, is actually changing in the opioid.
I hope so.
And all that, yeah.
I hope it's changing.
Anxiety, a lot of anxiety medications are narcotics that are prescribed, and they're extremely addictive. So, we're trading one for the other, and, society does encourage drinking.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very difficult if everyone else does it and they're allowed to do it, for some to see that it's problematic or
I mean,
can be.
we grew up watching like Budweiser commercials, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Clydesdale horses, man.
Yeah.
Look at those
Every
pretty horses.
event,
They're
every event
really
that
nice
is,
horses, yeah.
you know, Mardi Gras. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
It's all based around.
The alcohol sales
Those,
and the signs.
those Budweiser chameleons.
The
And
band,
the
the band,
girls.
the band I work for is sponsored by Shiner, so it's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
country music is inherently tied into
Right.
Oh,
that kind of
absolutely.
stuff. You know,
I don't think the intent was for it to become what it has.
yeah, it's
of
not like
course.
this big.
You know, it's just like
conspiracy
I
or
think
anything.
in certain cultures they drink all the time and they don't seem to have some of the issues that we have.
Sure, yeah.
You know, especially when you go in different parts of the world in Europe.
Yeah,
and
because in a
everything
lot of
where
European cultures,
Right.
they just drink. You know, and
they
it's-
actually drink. Their drinking rate is much more than ours, but as far as the issues,
They're a lot safer about it though, yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a very personal. You know, depending on, for me, you know, it's our background, our families. I believe in the predestined, where you can have, if your my grandparents were alcoholics, and my grandfather is Italian, and so there was a lot of drinking, a lot of wine drinking. Not really to the point where I saw people getting intoxicated.
Yeah.
But, so it's just normal. I started drinking when I was about 9 or 10. I just took the drink out of my mom's hand and just had a sip, you know, think nothing about it. Everyone else was doing it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't pinpoint that I had a problem with alcohol because I didn't drink beer.
Right.
I didn't drink at home.
So
I only drank when I went
what
out.
you were seeing in terms of like when you thought about yourself was very different than what you thought it was.
Right.
Right, yeah.
I imagined it was the person who was the
waking
wino,
up and shaking and
or the
needing to-
wino with the bag,
Oh,
you know,
right,
the bag
right.
and the bottle, the person that you, to me, of course, I'm 53, so a little older, but what we imagine an alcoholic would be.
Right.
Stumbling around all the time, you know, completely incoherent.
Leaving Las Vegas
passed out of the
situation.
bar.
Yeah.
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 So that was one of the hardest things for me. But what I learned was, for me, when I put alcohol in my body, I literally have like an allergic reaction because I become someone else. I cannot stop drinking once I put in, like where some can go and have a couple of drinks and go on home or whatever. Me, I'm drinking much as I can. You know, it's just like it sets
Right.
off this compulsion, which is what it's about. That's what the substance use disorder is. And then it leads into other things, you know, because it lowers our inhibitions.
Absolutely, yeah.
So then we start going around maybe or talking or hanging around with people maybe we wouldn't typically
Trying to
hang
make
out
friends
with.
with people at the bar while you're drunk.
Yeah.
I've seen that
And the
happen
next
so many
thing you
times.
know, you're doing other things, which is what happened to me, meeting people who probably I wouldn't typically,
Associate with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but, you know, and then having other issues, untreated issues mainly is what kind of, like for me, it was depression. I mean, I'm not afraid to share that from a young age.
No,
Hmm.
not
But
at
I didn't
all.
know I was depressed. I thought everyone felt like I did. So I didn't really question it. I just tried to
Yeah.
push through, you know, keep going.
Yeah.
Well,
Hold on.
Well, you would never know unless you actually talk to somebody else.
Right.
You know, we're all individually an island, right? We're on this mental island, and unless you talk to somebody about their experiences, you'll never know.
Right.
So if you have depression, you don't even know what that is because you can't compare it to anybody else. You don't even know if you're an alcoholic because you can't compare it to anybody else. That's kind of how it is. And especially with like the homeless problem, I think that applies to them more than anybody else. I see, you know, and it's weird, but
And not all of them have an addiction issue. A huge amount do. A huge. Which came through some self-medicating and surviving and just being in that
Right.
environment and all those things.
Well, like
Untreated.
you said, the using puts you in that place
Mm-hmm.
to where you can get in those situations that would make you homeless, you know?
and yeah, down the road, I guess if you extrapolate it or took it to its logical end, I guess so, yeah.
Well, the ends, we believe, are jails, institutions, and death. Those are your three things that you promise.
That's your ends. Oh,
It
wow.
is because you know, most of the time you end up in jail, okay,
Yeah, you get a DWI.
right?
Yeah.
Or an institution. If you drink too much, maybe you can get, you know, it affects the central nervous system
Knock
to the
your
point
liver
where
out
you,
or something.
right? Or some people have substance-induced psychosis. They don't
really?
come out of it.
Yeah.
There's no telling. Or maybe you have an accident as a result of drinking, which
Right.
lands you in an institution. You maybe have a severe brain injury or an accident. And then
It's really easy to fall down when you're drunk.
and death, of course, you know, there's many alcohol-related accidents on both sides, the drinker and the innocent people who are
Bystander.
killed. or just accidents that happen, falling. People do things when they're drinking that they wouldn't normally do, become very violent. Blackout drinkers, those are where we lose periods of time and we don't know what happened, and you do something. We call it the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
You probably know people like that.
Yeah, we know people like that.
As soon as they start putting in, they become someone else, either the life of the party or a raving lunatic in a sense.
I've met a few people like that before. Yeah.
Well, so Aaron, I mean, my job is almost 100% in bars or drinking situations, and Aaron is a bouncer at a bar.
And I work at a bar, so I see that all the time.
I mean, while we have our own, I guess, drinking problems, but with other people, we see all these people and we see what it does to them,
right?
Nearly constantly, every week.
Yeah.
So you may be seeing them in the end stages, like where they're the substance use disorder has progressed into daily use, or maybe unemployable, or losing jobs, getting jobs, losing jobs, or just even progressing into drug use and then other illegal activities to survive. Mm-hmm. It's a very progressive illness, meaning it doesn't stop even just because you stop using.
Right,
you have the mental obsession and the phenomenon of craving. That's really quite interesting whenever you study about it. But the big thing for me is the stigma that's related to it.
Oh, yeah.
And for those who say we just had just a pretty fair, normal life growing up, and we suddenly develop these issues, and then all of a sudden we believe we're bad people.
Yeah.
And society tells us
there's
we're bad
a lot of
people,
shame, yeah,
and that we don't care. And it's not true. We do care, but we're good people with the bad problem. So what I love about mental health awareness and all the wonderful things that are happening now is to educating everyone. We're educating police, law enforcement on mental health issues. They're being able now to identify.
Are y'all working with the police department?
Mm-hmm. We do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all have for a while, but
we have been for a few years now, and it's really amazing. And the courts. There's a couple adult and a youth court that our program provides services to help. It's a court liaison program where we're helping them get mental health and substance use services, as opposed to continuing
and just throwing them
in and out of jail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's up to them. And some are getting it as conditions of their bond, where the coming back in 30 and 60 days, and they're starting to attend programs and getting help through us.
Attend programs like an AA type program or something?
If they choose to. We provide, there's a lot of different recovery programs.
That was one thing I was actually going to ask you is what the alternatives to that are. Because somebody like me, I know about the AA program, but if I were to ever decide I have a problem, I wouldn't go to an AA just because I don't like that program. Just because I feel like I fundamentally disagree with it.
Okay.
So I was wondering.
I don't think he likes the higher power.
I don't like all that stuff. So it's like, it would turn me off,
Yeah.
So, and I know that there's probably many people out there like that. So I was curious if there were. And that seems to be the standard. That model seems to be the standard everywhere.
Well, I think it's seems that way because it's worked for so many.
Yeah.
And the thing about any type of recovery program is you have to actually work the program.
Sure.
So just coming in, not knowing anything, and all this talk about a higher power and this and that, it's actually a 12-step program.
And I'm a layman, so any problem I have with it is like something I just saw on the surface. Right? So
in my experience and what I suggest to anyone who's interested in finding out is go in there.
Yeah.
Work the program, do what they ask you to do, work the whole 12 steps, and then see how you feel.
Sure. Okay.
And we suggest that to anyone, but I'm not here to promote AA. That's kind of an anonymity kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of recovery programs. There's faith-based, there's Celebrate Recovery, there's 12 Steps with Jesus, there's a harm reduction, what they call model, where they're trying to help you.
What's that? Because
harm reduction.
That's kind of a word I've heard, a term I've heard before. Yeah.
It can be used in different.
Safe injection.
Yeah. In a sense, my belief in substance abuse counseling is, and what I've experienced is that it helps people continue to keep coming back. So say you have progressed in your alcohol use to drinking a half a gallon of straight vodka a day.
Oh, Jesus.
And your level of functioning is down to nothing. Okay. You can no longer work. You're not eating, blah, blah, blah.
Probably got cirrhosis.
So could possibly. Yeah. And so then if we're able to get you to maybe get off the vodka and do beer for a while, because anything that you reduce, there's always an improvement if you're reducing.
Yeah.
So reduction.
Yeah, it would be literally impossible to drink the
If
same
I black
amount of
out every
alcohol.
time I use liquor, then I should try not to use liquor.
Try not to use liquor. Yeah.
But the idea really is to keep them engaged, because if I'm saying, okay, I'm not going to tell you to do total abstinence because it's very all or nothing, and it can scare some people away. Like, my gosh, how am I ever going to survive if I can't? So we're very client-centered as far as our approach and what they're willing to do. And seeing, like, say, people that use hard drugs and continue using marijuana. The hard drugs cause homelessness. They can't keep jobs. Again, it's their level of relationships, work, school, all suffer. But if they use marijuana initially, we're really always hoping to strive for abstinence, and if that's their goal.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it's very individualized and client-centered. We try to meet them where they're at and help them understand and find their way, their purpose. But,
well, it's good to, even with the harm reduction, it's good to show them just that little change, the improvement that can be made, and show that they have the power, I guess, to, or to actually maybe make them want to do even better than that because they feel so much better. Yeah,
because, there's a powerlessness involved with not being able to stop or wanting to stop. And that's where the mental obsession and the compulsion and the craving, like with the alcohol, is a very physical addiction as well as mental and, psychological.
Yeah, you can literally get addicted to anything.
You can.
I
Gambling,
overeating,
shopping,
food is
sex.
a huge one. Food is a huge one. Anytime you see somebody that's 600 pounds, and it's a compulsion, just like drinking. There's people
it's like that hole that we're trying to fill up. That we
it's like a void.
So for me, it's about educating people on issues. For me as a counselor, I just got my master's degree in mental health counseling.
Awesome.
And so when I actually become a licensed professional counselor, one of the things that I really like is going back and helping them put together the pieces of the puzzle to see when did something change for you.
Did your experiences with recovery put you into this field?
Yes.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm just thinking about, you just got your master's and you said that you're in your 50s. So it's like,
10 years ago, 2007, I started out at Lamar Port Arthur to be a substance abuse counselor. Yeah. And then in doing that, I realized how much addiction is a family disease. It not only affects the user, but all the loved ones and friends. And I was like, wow, I'd like to do more. So I went into social work, got a bachelor's in social work. And then I love counseling. And really, they say I'm a traitor because I didn't get a master's in social work. But I went into...
Who says that? Who says
just,
that?
It's Get a little joke. Here. But yeah.
Traitor.
So I got my master's in clinical mental health counseling from Lamar University.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm really excited about it.
Was it I guess your experience and how much better you felt, and you wanted to share that with other people by helping them?
Well, a big part of recovery is giving back, helping others. It's really the key element. And so that's service work. It's what we do. And to get out there and help others. I mean, who better to help someone who's homeless than to say, I was homeless for 5 years.
Right.
And to have that connection, and I recovered, and I believe you can too.
Right. Nobody wants to be taught by someone who's never been there.
Well, it's challenging because, not all of us have the same experience, but maybe you have a loved one or someone, a really good friend or aunt, uncle, somebody who you watched or about who suffered in that way, either with untreated mental health, which led into an addiction, or both. And so you can relate. Many people get into the field because there's some sort of something that pulls them, a passion for others.
You would hope that. I mean, it's social work.
Yeah. Usually if they don't, they'll usually get out. They'll get out usually if it's not for them.
It's not easy, seeing the things that you hearing the stories that you have to hear.
Right.
And are a lot of
we understand, for me, I understand how it happens, so I don't really need to know how you got there. what I try to help them find is when was a good time in their life? When were things going well? Let's go back to that. Or what does your life look like for you? What would be something good for you? And try to help them start to believe that they could get there again.
Right.
Like envision a future with you being in this.
Yeah, where your functioning is back up wherever you feel. It's really about finding our purpose in life. You know, we all have a purpose.
Yeah.
And mine, I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
I think that's why a lot of people drink anyways, because
they're not happy.
A feeling of like aimlessness or something like that.
Yeah. Suppressing those feelings of not wanting to feel what I'm feeling.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a vicious cycle that, you know, when you sober up, still there again. Here we go again.
Right. So let me hit it. Take one of the dome again.
Yeah. So then it's progressive because what used to give you that satisfaction doesn't work anymore. So we need more.
Right.
And that's where the, disorder really.
Because before
severe.
you could just have a couple of beers and there it is, and now
you're doing shots.
Now it's you have to get home too because you're trashed. You got work in the morning.
So now you're going to do a little Coke over here to wake up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
and it all goes hand in hand, especially with the bar culture and everything.
It does.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we get there? Like how I mean, I really am wondering as a society, like how we've gotten this very, very passive view of it, and how it could be blatantly advertised in Christmas commercials, every football game. Like it's everywhere, and it ruins a lot of lives. And not saying that prohibition obviously didn't work, but
I think it made it worse.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, could it have roots in prohibition? Maybe.
I think it made it worse. I do. I think honestly, one reason why it's so bad is because we have like one state-sponsored drug, which is alcohol, pretty much. Everything else is illegal, barring you have a prescription. But everything else is legal. Everything else is bad. No, I mean, when we were kids, we had that stupid little dare line telling us like don't do drugs, but.
And that's kind of where the stigma arose, rise from.
But it was like that separation of these things.
Just say no. Yeah. And I'm not knocking any of the campaigns to help people bring awareness.
Right.
Yeah.
Any kind of education is good.
Right.
But if I'm thought to be a bad person, or I could just say no, for me, and I can't talk for anyone else, I wanted to say no, but I couldn't. I didn't know how. And I didn't understand the obsession of the mind that this disease brings to the table. Where when I would go to treatment, I did good. I was doing good in a controlled environment, but I would never be able to stop thinking about it. Yeah. And that I couldn't share because I thought, well, you shouldn't be thinking this. You should be okay. I really believe that I was there to be cured, but there really is no cure. So the idea is to learn how to live life on life's terms without having to put in the substances to self-medicate or relieve the symptoms.
That's the next level education. What you're talking about is, I guess it's never taught because it's not so surface level. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's not so easy to teach.
No.
Like things like when we were kids, like the DARE program, I think they're fundamentally flawed. And I understand where you say any education is good education, but they are fundamentally flawed, and they make a disconnect and a separation like instantly whenever you read those little comics. Whenever it says just say no, there's always some pusher man coming up, right? Mm-hmm. So we think, this man's evil, he's giving us that. So I think when you go to that next level of education, you go, no, this is just a guy that's suffering, he's not an evil man. And then there's also the separation of everything else. They show you like heroin needles and joints in there, but they don't really say anything about a 6-pack of Coors.
Right.
And I
so
think,
when one succumbs to that, so what you've learned, and now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I have become that.
Right.
I've become that, which is terrible. And
so
then we have that inner
evil.
belief.
Then you feel like that pusher man,
That's
right?
the hopelessness, the helplessness that people feel, the guilt
you're
and
that shady
shame.
guy in that little comic, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of the...
And so how can I face my family knowing that I've done this now, or that I've didn't come home for 4 days, and now my children are, there's so many things that are tied into.
And that'll drive you even deeper into it as well.
And so for me, it's helping build relationships with people and helping them, even if they're not ready, because not a lot of people are ready. You have the stages of change. There's 5 stages of change. And pre-contemplation would be a person who is really like the elephant in the room. They're not aware. Then contemplation, goes into, well, maybe there is a problem with something, and then it goes on into the other stages of changing and then maintaining. And then relapse can be a part of recovery as well, because a lot of times people will relapse. And those relapses can be good. I mean, it doesn't have to be just substances. It can be even with those who require mental health medications. Once they stop taking their meds, all of a sudden they're starting to have the symptoms again. They're not able to function. They can't keep their job now. All of it affects everything. So we just try to address the issues as they arise. And for me, it's building relationships, like going out, talking to those who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of becoming homeless. That's a huge population. We not only address those who are experiencing homelessness, but those who are at imminent risk. And that could be someone coming out of jail or prison, staying in a halfway house, people that are just in and out of services, living with family members, not having their own place because they can't maintain long enough to. So. And
PATH is, you said, PATH is it's something that Spindletop does. Spindletop is a private business, but the PATH program is a state thing?
Well, we are a state entity, and we have many different programs. My program is a grant.
Okay.
And so in providing the grant, there's so much money that's given, and then they disperse the money, and we apply for the grant. We have to have
people
grant
go
writers.
to you, or do you go to them? The people that you're helping, or that you're
both.
Yeah.
We service 4 counties. Spindletop Center services 4 counties: Jefferson, Hardin, Orange, and Chambers. And my PATH team, we go out to various locations, to tent communities, to Henry's Place, which is here in Beaumont.
What's Henry's Place?
Henry's Place is it's through some other place.
Okay.
They feed the homeless.
It's like a bunkhouse type of thing?
No, they can come there in the mornings, I believe 8:30 to 11:30, and have some breakfast, do laundry, take showers. They can use Henry's Place. It's on McFadden in Beaumont. And as an address, if they're homeless, they can receive mail there. Some other place feeds lunch.
It must be right over there by
clothing.
SOP.
Yeah. And we go there and talk to people. We go to the Hospitality Center in Port Arthur. We go to some churches in Orange they give free meals, free lunches a few days a week.
Have you ever been in the tent city by the VA? Mm-hmm. The humongous tent city? Yeah.
Now, I myself personally wouldn't just walk back in there. I mean, we go in teams and we try to. But a lot of times the people come to us, people living under bridges. We see, we can see. And some of them we know. They kind of come in and out. But to me, it's just about building those relationships and when they're ready. And who knows when that will be for them. Hopefully they'll be ready and they know where to come when they need help.
That's an important thing, too, because you can't affect any change through force, right? You can never go to a homeless person and, grab them and shake them and be like,
right,
come get help.
Yeah.
You can never.
Well, you
can't do that to the person down in the bar right now.
No, you can't. You can't go there and
some
slap
people
them and
actually like living the way they live. Not every homeless person wants to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not live that
there's
way.
A difference between a vagrant, a hobo, and there's different
absolutely.
levels of that.
Urban outdoorsman.
Urban outdoorsman.
That's what my boss calls it.
Oh my goodness.
And it's really because they, and they have that right, and that's the thing. People have rights.
Yeah.
They have a right to live that way, and if they choose to do, then we can still help them, address their needs as we can. We have some housing programs at Spindletop that assist those who are actively receiving services from us. Some people need to apply possibly for disability. We have that assistance as well it's called SOAR. We have all kinds of things that people don't even realize. Of course, we have substance abuse outpatient and some other programs, recovery coaches. And then the mental health side.
I think you have mental health side. You have crisis counseling and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
right?
We have a positive alternatives counseling, which is a one-on-one. Once you get into services, and we do accept insurance. I mean, you can go and just see a private counselor, therapist. Of course, we have med management where you would see the psychiatrist if you're, if whatever you're going through. Now, we don't prescribe any narcotic medicines or anything like that.
Right, right.
Non-narcotic, like antidepressants, some with anti-anxiety to help with that. We also have a primary care clinic.
Don't give no Xanny bars, though. Yeah,
No.
Good.
That would be a little counterproductive.
In my opinion, it's the worst drug on the planet.
Yes, that and Klonopin, but
Yeah.
hey, I'm not a doctor, so not yet. But anyway.
Not yet. I like that. I like that, yeah.
Do you know any of the rates of use of heroin in the homeless communities here? Is that prevalent?
I don't. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't have a statistic number. I mean, I could have.
I always feel like heroin's like falling out of vogue or something, you know?
It's not as cool.
No, I feel...
Actually, it's a lot more prevalent now than it ever has been
and
because
that's my
of the
point,
opioid.
Is like, you think like...
It's easier to get now,
yeah.
and it's not as expensive. Of course, it's more dangerous because you are using it's IV drug use. So you're talking about sharing of needles, contaminated needles, hepatitis C, all kinds of infections.
We're also talking about fentanyl, too. We're talking about things that are dangerously more powerful than heroin by the magnitude of 5 times.
Of drugs that people are using right now, and I had some I could have brought. I'm sorry, I didn't think about that, but not
Bringing
the drugs themselves, but
Yeah.
some pamphlets. There's a place here called OSAR. It's through ADAC, where they do substance abuse screening to help you get into treatment, and they're located at 755 South 11th Street.
They do substance abuse screening to help
Yes, to help you get to treatment, whatever if you need outpatient, inpatient.
Okay.
And they have all kinds of information and flyers about all the different drugs that are being used right now.
Even the weird ones.
Synthetic marijuana, all the different kinds with everything in it.
What is the outlook from mental health and addiction specialists on the impending, legalization of cannabis and all those? Is it really affecting the way y'all are looking at things, or?
I personally, I can't speak for Spindletop, but I believe it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right, right.
I don't know what their opinion is on it, really. I mean, I think that we will probably do what we're supposed to do, what we're required to do. And when the time comes, we will address it, as it appears, as it comes.
I mean, alcohol is legal.
Alcohol is legal.
Yeah.
It doesn't
I mean,
change
there
how
isn't
y'all treat
anything.
it.
And of course, we'll just continue to provide services for people. And, it's a very personal thing because you have to experience it yourself to understand where you are with it and what your needs are. And like I said, I practice total abstinence myself. I've tried too many times.
Moderation.
Yeah, and it just doesn't work for me. But there's exceptions to every rule,
Right.
But our idea and our hope is to help you get to the level of functioning where you can have that
you're comfortable with.
Right, be at peace within yourself, address the issues, whether it's your mental health and substance use or both, co-occurring, we call them, or they might have a substance use and, like I said, in a medical issue. That's
like
also
a hurt
co-occurring.
back. Yeah.
Or, where they have to take some kind of a pain med. And so for that,
that's going to be super difficult.
Yeah.
To have an addictive, personality or to be addicted to something that you have to have.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's many different forms. For me, when I do a surgery or anything, I let my doctor knows I'm in recovery. So if I have to have any kind of pain medication, it's definitely the most lowest form.
Right.
And if I have to have help, like say someone helping me, which I'm not there, but I haven't had that experience, but we educate ourselves and talk about it and stay, open to all the options. Or do I really need it, or can I just try it, without it? And because it's serious, for me, it can be very deadly,
Yeah.
Because if it restarts that.
Yeah. The mental obsession.
And I don't want to sound like self-righteous or like I know anything, but a lot of times these days it seems like medical professionals just kind of don't even care about that. It's I think that's and like I might be wrong. This is why I said I feel like this, but it feels like part of the reason why we have such a large opioid problem in this country is because of doctors, is because people's just reluctance just to write a prescription for anything.
Right.
Just literally just go to whatever the maximum effectiveness is.
Yeah.
Because that might be the way they think is terms of efficacy versus like cost or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's
well, I mean, there's definitely
like
many
anybody
different
can get
opinions
anything.
about that.
Right.
And like, again, I'm not a doctor, but I believe in my experience with the medical personnel that we work with closely in some of the hospitals here, I think that they believe in just that these medications, if taken properly and if used as directed, will work. And they, to me, it seems like they give all the things. This can be addictive, and they try to monitor, but I think their intentions are not where they don't care. But I do believe that it's us as individuals. We have to take responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah.
If we're not aware, if we're saying, talking to the doctor, you know what, I feel like I'm needing more. But what happens is we really do become dependent. Now there's much more awareness about the dependency. So they're not prescribing drugs like they were.
Sure.
They've really put a stop to that.
And then sometimes I'm not trying to point out anything bad about a doctor because they have a really hard job. Like if somebody's prescribed Adderall and then they come back to their doctor and they say, I need a higher dosage. Mm-hmm. Is it the doctor's job to figure out? Well, it is literally their job to do it, but they have to actually like figure out the balance. Like, okay, is the efficacy of this drug like wearing down, like their tolerance going up, or are they?
Yeah.
Or
and
maybe are they like
happen.
Selling some of these? Like, is that a thing, or maybe are they? Well,
I would imagine. I think that's why they try to track all of that and see how often are you, like where they used to have the doctor shopping, where you're going to 5 different doctors,
they did,
5 prescriptions
before the internet.
Nobody knew.
That was probably pretty easy.
So now it's kind of, I think it imposes. Now I could be wrong because I don't work in a pharmacy, but it might be like a red flag. I know for me, some medications that I take, like for high blood pressure and everything, they give you a prescription. It lasts for 30 days. You can't get it filled again until the end of the time.
That time runs out.
So it's much more, I think they're much more aware of it. People still get away with doing things, but, and they're going to do that because it's like they have no mental defense. That's what the substance use disorder causes. No mental defense. I know I shouldn't do this, but the compulsion, the need is so great. I have to.
While you're even going through the motions of doing it,
yeah,
you're
and
saying
it's
in your
even
head
painful
you shouldn't be doing
in the
it.
midst of doing it. It's not something that they want to do. But when you're physically addicted to something, or you have so many mental health issues that are untreated, that you can't fathom. You can't live without something.
And most people don't want to keep doing it. Most people do want to stop. Right. And that's I could see how that'd be painful.
And then that's where we come in, hopefully when they're ready. And that's why I say, like, building those relationships where we do at Spindletop. People can come
we're
there.
Here whenever you're ready.
And we know each other by name. We know we see each other walking around. We stop and say hello, and
well, that's one of the reasons why that's one of the reasons, or at least like the link to all these different types of programs. The thing that seems to work is the community aspect of it.
Right, it is.
So if somebody were to go to NA or AA, a lot of times what really helps the most is just a community and being surrounded by all the other people with
support.
I've been there too.
I've been there too. Yeah. And that's,
and not feeling alone. Because many times we think we're bad people, we're alone, nobody thinks or feels like this. And then you start having others share their experience, and they're telling the same story that and they're like, okay, I'm not losing my mind here. This is real.
Hi, this is Jake Hooker of Jake A. Hooker, and you're listening to A to Z Podcast. A to Z Podcast is funded in part by our patrons on Patreon. If you would like to support us, head over to patreon.com/A2ZBMT.
Hey, you guys, we want to take this little time in the middle here to highlight some things going on in our community.
Absolutely. Saturday, October 13th, we have Girls Haven 24th Annual Gumbo Fest at the Parkdale Mall.
It's always there every year.
Live music.
Lots of good food.
For great causes for Girls Haven.
Absolutely.
Also that night at 7 p.m., Chelsea Tolan and Jill Waldrop will be at the High Street Gallery downtown.
Yes. No, that's a Victoria House.
Oh, cool. Okay,
yeah, it's
High
an
Street
art
Gallery
show.
at
It's
Victoria
an art
House.
show that people work very hard on. If you want to get yourself some culture, go over there.
And Monday, October 15th at 8 p.m., we got Mike Valet, famous skateboarder, and the Texas New Arms at Natchez Brewing Company.
That's right.
And then Tuesday,
we have our buddy, our former guest, Tyler Troutman. He's going to be speaking at the Spindletop Rotary Club
at the MCM Elegante at 12 p.m. So get there if you want to hear Mr. Tyler speak.
And tonight, we're going to go see Henry Rollins. Doop, doop, doop.
Woo!
It's like $1:45 now, bro. You like them? Throw me like a buck. here at like 2 o'clock. I haven't even seen him. He's totally broke. That owes me $20, man. Just smoke it. You got not smoking that fucking no more. Take those bottles back here.
And you look so fine. When you lie, it just don't show. But I know which way.
I guess y'all have a lot of, I guess, what is it government subsidized programs that y'all do?
Yeah, like grants and
stuff,
monies that we have given to us to provide services to people. Different. Right.
Yeah. Oh, well, we I don't know how we're going to approach it until I edit it, but we had a little SD card failure, so we had to kind of stop where we were, and I think we missed out on something that you said about what you said earlier about the how y'all are working with the police.
Mm-hmm. We work with the, I said we service Jefferson, Hardin, Chambers, and Orange County. Mm-hmm. We have a mental health deputy.
You said a lot of things changed after a certain act last year. Sandra Bland Act.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about that yet.
Right. The young lady that, I believe, completed suicide in jail. She was arrested. She had some mental health issues, I believe.
Huh. And they didn't treat them.
Didn't recognize or were
right,
aware.
It just went over their head.
Yeah. So and it's looked at as behavioral.
Yeah.
Even with substance use, it's looked at as a choice, a behavioral issue. You know, you're just not a strong enough person to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're working. We have a mental health deputy. It's our it's an ASAP program. It's called Assist Stabilization and Prevention. We have a actual peace officer who's a mental health deputy and goes with a qualified mental health professional, which is, we call them a Q. They go in teams and the police know us, and they're actually peace officers. But now the one who started the program, he's actually employed by Spindletop now. He was with Jefferson County, and I believe he worked for Orange County for many years.
So he decided he liked working on this aspect more than what he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's how he had passion for helping people, and just it's been an amazing program. And now where we started out with 4, I think we had 3 mental health deputies and 3 Qs. Now he's going to be able to hire 14 because they got.
So they're going to hire 14 mental health deputies in Beaumont.
They had 14 positions, not just Beaumont.
But all the surrounding counties, too.
I believe it's 14 people. I don't know if all of those are mental health deputies or if it's like 7 and 7 or something. Wow. But I believe there was like 14 positions open from Chambers County, Orange. So we work with the police stations, with the police departments, with the county sheriff and all. And when they have an issue or someone who they believe might be in crisis or a crisis situation like that, they can call our hotline, or they can call, his name is Tommy Smith. Call him, and he will send someone out as a team.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there's almost like, we haven't seen it until recently, I guess, as a whole society, that there's almost like a separation in the jobs, to where police need to be dealing with criminals, and maybe there needs to be a subset of that force that people with mental health issues, even though they may commit crimes because they have mental health issues, does not mean they're necessarily like a criminal element, I guess.
Right. And so that's the whole idea of the jail diversion programs and this collaborative of bringing the hospitals, the jails, and the mental health
on the same
together, which we've been doing now for some years. But it's getting even more awareness, and we're working more closely together, and even some discharge planning from Jefferson County Jail going into Orange County Jail, and doing assessments going into the courtroom. Like I told you earlier, we're going into the court for those who are coming in, and it's Judge Holmes. He's allowing Spindletop to be there with our ATAR program, which is substance use and mental health, and the program is the court liaison program. But we're all tied in together, working with the hospitals and the jails and the courts, and of course ourselves. And it's kind of the same people who go in and out of and it's saving the county's money because they're not housing these people and just going back and forth. The recidivism rate is become great.
It's beneficial. And it's really weird because I'm not really like a bleeding heart. I don't even feel like I'm really that overly compassionate, but I can even see that most of the people that need help, or most people that are in crisis, and people that have problems and stuff like that, even I can see, like, I'm like, this isn't just some criminal. I don't even like. This isn't just some vagrant. Like that's somebody's kid. That's
Absolutely,
somebody's brother.
someone's mother.
You know, it's somebody's
Husband,
grandmother.
wife,
You know,
yes.
she might just have.
So that element of
yeah.
what we try to do is humanize them.
Right, absolutely.
To make them, again, and that's the person first language that we use. They're first a person who has been diagnosed with a substance use disorder.
They're not an addict.
Or who is experiencing homelessness.
Yeah.
Or who has been diagnosed with
You're not
schizophrenia.
labeling them.
Right.
You're,
So when we treat
feel like a
them
lot
in
of
that
people
way
don't,
and we start educating ourselves, talking the language, and getting others to hear that, then it kind of, we reduce the stigma and we start seeing that, like you said, they are someone's loved one, a family friend.
have you been seeing improvements in not only the surrounding area, the people that you're working with, but have you been seeing improvements in the I guess the people who you are working alongside, like the police officers and everything? Like
Absolutely. There's 3 of us, Tommy Smith, myself, and another young lady from Spindletop. We're trained in the mental health first aid, adult. Then we have a law enforcement mental health first aid, and then there's also a youth. So we provide this training to help them, and we go through the different aspects, of some disorders, explaining to them how it becomes a disorder. And like I explained to y'all, there's a mild, moderate, and severe level based on the criteria that's taken out of the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual. And just educating them on some first aid for mental health, what to do, how to talk to them,
so
who
it's
to
first
call.
aid, like first aid for up here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like you see someone, talking to themselves, and we see that, or some warning, some signs that are like right now it's 100 degrees outside, or maybe not 100, but someone walking around with the full coat and, and everything. That stands out. That that's not normal, right?
Right.
That's not what we're all trying to not be hot. So how can they be doing that? So obviously there's something going on there. And just being able to identify, which the peace officers, they see this stuff all the time.
Right.
But like you said, they're there to address the criminal activity, loitering and all that kind of stuff. And so it becomes, that's their element. So if we're able to widen our horizon, if you will, broaden our thinking into, okay, this person needs help, or they arrest Joe every week. He comes to jail every week because this and that.
I don't want to pay for that as a taxpayer.
Well, and it really helps because how are we helping? We're not really helping.
Yeah, you're just you're adding more burden to that person.
Booking the same person every week, come on now, that's expensive.
And if the person is willing to get help, they don't always want help. Some of them have been in services with us, and maybe they're not active right now, so maybe they'd like to get back in. And I mean, one thing that jail does provide, it provides them a moment of clarity, say if they are using substances.
They're going to sober up.
Yeah. I mean, and now they're at that, you have that captive audience because they don't want to stay there and they want out. What do I need to do? So that's when we, try to get them when they're willing to get help. Yeah. So now they're offering, would you like to speak to a mental health professional or substance use?
That's
and
so
if they say yes, then they're letting us know. We're going in and talking to them.
Yeah.
And trying to set up stuff for them when they get out. But like those who are out in the community and the police see them or encounter them, they'll let us know. Right. And then we get calls because we have an 800 number that anyone can call 24/7.
Yeah, what is it?
I'm going to give you the number. As soon as I pull it out, I should know it off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. We have no time limits or anything really, so. And we're keeping you out of work, so.
Oh, it's okay. I work in the community, so I'm always out
and about.
We're the community.
Yes, you are. That's why I was so excited to do this.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're excited.
This is an opportunity for educating people and maybe getting. Okay, so I bought this new purse.
You don't know all the pockets yet,
I do not have my card.
Well, we can. What is it? What's the hotline called? I can look it up.
It's the crisis hotline. Let me see. I think it's 1-800-937.
I'm having trouble finding it. 1-800-937-8097.
Did you find that?
Yeah.
See, that's what I said. Did I say that? 8097 or
8097. 57? I think you might. I don't know. Yeah,
okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Shame on me.
It's really like I am actually legitimately excited to hear that all of that is being done with the police because of the past few years. I mean, we've always had high praise for BPD because they've always been pretty on the ball as far as we know, everything that we've seen. And
they've always done a really good job of like knowing what a situation really is. Because I work at a bar, and I mean, shit happens, you know, like to put it bluntly, like and things happen, and they've come up, they've known situationally what they should do. They're like, all right, this guy needs to go to jail, or no, this, you know, hey, you're gonna take him home. All right, cool. I don't need to do anything else, you know. And they've done a really good job of doing that. Whereas like some people is just like jail, like every single time, no matter what happens. Like, okay, cool. I got PC now to just take you to jail. Yeah, and they do a pretty good job of like really discerning what a situation is, and then for them, you know, they're also human. Police officers, and they see all these things on a daily basis. They see things that we can't even imagine. Realize. Right. And when we see them, you know, they're supposed to be together and not have any issues, and you know, be able to fix everything like Superman, superheroes, or whatever. And it's just not even a reality. And so they're just people. When when something happens, you know, I mean, we are all human, and it's really unfortunate. But now with the more mental health awareness, even they need help at times. Well, they're going to have PTSD. They're going to.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean,
yeah. Well, that's something that we talk about in our mental health first aid law enforcement. How much more serious it is for them. And almost
anyway, even cops in like rural areas might see a baby in a dumpster or something. You know, they might see the most horrendous sides of humanity. You know, you never know.
So you probably make it a point to say,
and so what do they do with all that?
While you're teaching them these things, you can also say, hey, we are also here for you too.
Right. And I mean, many places are set up for you to get like employee assistance programs, but in some, you know, there's the written rules and unwritten rules, and like, you know, if you're not mentally stable to do your job. Yeah. So it's a big stigma behind it still, you know, and even so then it comes out in other things like alcoholism. Right. Or family violence.
That's a Hollywood trope right there, the whiskey drinking detective too. So you know.
But you know, I mean, and so for all of us, we can all relate to substance use, however we get there or have gotten there, or are on our way if we feel that it's an issue, and just knowing that recovery is possible. I believe recovery at any age, at any time, it's possible if you, with your educating, getting awareness, understanding ourselves, and being willing. You know, we have to be willing.
Being open,
yeah. And help is always available.
Yeah.
It's just that first step.
Have you seen a marked improvement in mental health awareness and everything in not maybe here, the entire country, or have you seen an actual? Are we going in the right direction?
I believe so.
You think
I think we really are. It is. We have evolved at Spindletop in the last 5 years, just unbelievably with the programs. Like I started to tell you, we have the ASAP, and we also have it's called MCOT, Mobile Crisis Outreach Team. Now they are stationed in the hospitals, in our local hospitals, St. E, Baptist, and the Med Center in Port Arthur, and they have a rotation. So we have a mental health professional there to assess individuals who are in a crisis.
And these are all fairly new programs?
They've been, let's see, the MCOT's been, I'm going to say it's about at least 3 years, maybe almost 3 years or a little more.
Yeah. Because it seems like this movement toward more mental health services has started probably around 5 years ago.
And again, we're collaborating with the hospitals, law enforcement, and we have our mental health deputies so we can bring people in to be assessed, you know, and because it might look like substance use, but it could be mental health. It might think it's mental health, but here it's substance. So what they do is they take them in to be assessed to rule out the need for psychiatric inpatient, or to rule out the need for detox, or they might have a medical issue going on. They could be, you know, an older adult, so urinary tract infection can cause psychosis.
Yeah.
What?
So,
Really?
Yeah. And so you have someone who's hallucinating, and we might think this or that, but so they're running blood work, they're doing a assessment as long as they're not under the influence, and then if they are, you know, hopefully allowing them to sober up, and then they do a mental health assessment on them and try to help them get their needs met, you know, whatever that is. We just don't have a lot of services as far as for detox in the area. People that
we don't really
no,
have
we
a
used to
detox.
have a detox. It's closed now.
Okay, no, I remember
Baptist.
because my mother she took some medication that had like a very adverse reaction, caused psychosis in her, and she had to be put in. The only place they had was the mental health ward or whatever that is. I think it was the MHMR thing.
Baptist Behavioral Health.
Yeah, and it's like you're being put in with people who are very mentally ill, and she just needed a detox. A couple of days. Once it was out of her system, she was completely normal. I'm not saying they're abnormal, I guess you could say, but
atypical.
Herself.
Yeah. But she was herself again. But there was nowhere for her to go just to have that clear out. She had to be put in with people who were like a lot worse off than her.
Right.
And it was kind of scary.
And that can be
for her.
very scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very
And
scary.
because a lot of times those are locked units that you just can't leave. If you're in there for an observation, it's usually 72 hours. That's for mental health stuff. But we had the detox unit, and now, and like especially if you don't have insurance, they have some will prescribe like Librium for people who have alcohol.
Librium, is that the stuff that makes you throw up if you drink?
No, I don't think so. It's more like a detox medication that takes for alcohol.
It kind of removes
withdrawals.
your physical needs.
Yeah, it kind of
for it.
reduces the craving, takes the edge off. There's no real cure-all, but I mean, it's still challenging.
What is it, like simulate being drunk or something?
I think it stops the receptor in the brain, kind of blocks it for the craving, I believe.
Interesting.
Somewhat reduces.
Yeah.
And then the physical symptoms too, because, you can be really sick and
the shakes
hallucinate and
You
DTs and
You can be. That's
nausea, vomiting.
how often does that actually happen?
What's that?
Like somebody that actually has like the shakes and DTs and all that.
Well, that would definitely be a case by case, but it's mainly in withdrawal, but it can also be in in.
Does somebody my age ever go through that?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Their level of addiction is high enough.
Yeah. I mean, if you're drinking and if you're taking in any substances to the point where you're really over medicating and then you stop, you have
because that's not just
shock.
DTs aren't just an alcohol thing. That's essentially
what is
every
DT?
Detox.
It's
detox.
Trimmers?
Yeah.
I was thinking trimmers.
Yeah, detox trimmers or something.
No, it's not detox. It's something delirium tremors, I believe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But I mean, that's kind of antiquated, I guess, term. Yeah. But that's kind of what everything is. The shakes are like withdrawal symptoms. That's just from every substance. It's not just an alcohol thing.
It could be from opiates.
It's essentially right. Like a heroin withdrawal is essentially the same thing as.
Right.
It's your body wants the other drug more than it wants to keep you steady.
You become sick.
Right.
You have like flu-like symptoms, vomiting, diarrhea, all that stuff, and you can die from alcohol, heroin, opiates, all of those withdrawals.
I think it's a lot easier from alcohol than heroin, actually, isn't it?
I really, like I said, I'm not a doctor, but I think they're both pretty right up there together, depending on,
we listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that, and I've so this is going to sound like rhetoric because I don't even remember the doctor's name, but he actually was saying how very few people in the terms of like all history have died from a heroin withdrawal, and I was astounded. It was like 3 or something.
Yeah, he said that it's just like a flu though.
Yeah, it's like a flu. What is that guy's name?
Carl.
Dr. Carl.
Dr. Carl something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I know that like you can have heart problems and all kinds of other organs shutting down and things like that are things that I'm aware of.
And that was like one of the it's a 4-hour long podcast, but it was really eye opening because it made me really put in perspective what a drug is, right? Like everything's a drug. All medicine's a drug, and all drugs are medicine. It's like how you take it, the intent of taking it, the dosage is what separates the two,
or the effect. If you're taking something to get an effect, even if you're taking your antidepressants and overtaking them, trying to get an effect, that's the if you're wanting an effect as far as like change the way we feel.
You take Ambien and go to sleep, but if you take a few more than that, you stay up. It's going to be a drug.
And that's kind of how it's a progressive. One's better, one's good, 2 will be even better. Let me take 3.
Or you take your antidepressant as prescribed. Okay, fine. Or let me take my antidepressant and have 2 beers. That's going to be a completely different thing.
Right. And they say, not to use alcohol with this. I mean, they give you all the warning signs, but we for whatever reason, we don't believe that the rules apply to us in some ways. You know, we're
living the experience.
We're over. Oh, that's okay. That won't happen to me. And that's kind of how it is.
People want to get high. You know, honestly, like really,
we as a species have been getting high for a very long time.
We want to feel good.
Yeah, for a very long time.
When you look back into the cultures and what they used, you know, peyote and all the different things.
It's almost inseparable from even being a modern human.
Here's something. You know? Have you looked at or heard anything about the studies that they're doing with MDMA and psilocybin mushrooms
for
PTSD and for addiction treatments?
I've just barely heard a little about it. Not enough to really comment.
It's pretty. Yeah. Well, I wonder if it's being talked about in y'all's community, because I know I've looked it up and I know about it because I've looked for it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to see if it's
not right now. But I have heard
some
some things about it a little bit. But like I said, you know, as more awareness and more things are coming to light and more cures,
we're starting to find solutions.
Yeah, I mean we're all about solutions.
I think people are more. I think people are more open to the solutions now because there's less of a separation of. This is medicine. Yeah. This is a drug, right? Yeah. You know, a lot of that is kind of dispelled where it's like...
It's starting to become that way.
It's starting to become that way.
This interview has actually made me a lot more hopeful.
Kind of, yeah.
Because there's actually things, because with the school shootings, with everything that's been happening in this country for the last 5 or 6 or 10 years, that's been a lot crazier than normal.
Yeah, people seem to be crazy, huh?
Yeah, and we always say it's mental health, and but we don't see from where we are in our lives, we don't see the solutions being made. We don't see the steps being made to approach these problem head on. And what you're telling me is it's being done.
Right.
And y'all are doing a pretty good job.
We have a youth prevention program where they go into the schools and try to, provide mental health education to the youth and assist the counselors there with different assistance. You know, we work in the youth program here in Jefferson County.
So at-risk use and things like that, or just use in general?
No, with the at-risk, those who are possibly have gotten in trouble with maybe are in the juvenile system.
Right.
And so they're trying to help them, because they are our future. So we have to help them now.
Well, if you can help them now before they become homeless.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And there's a lot of things going on. It's generational many times, addiction and these thoughts and behaviors and mindsets. We all have our core beliefs and values and what we think. And that's, challenging that and understanding that how we got to be who we are.
Yeah.
And that's where I believe, counseling is really a wonderful therapy that's free. It's not free, but I mean, it's free you don't have to take anything if you don't want to.
No such thing as a free lunch.
Yeah.
You better just pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Well, some of the support programs are free. You don't have to pay anything to go.
And if you're a student, I think there's free counseling at Lamar if you're going there.
They have, I've taken a few years back, they were offering for some of the intern psychiatrists. They were offering free counseling services. I think they still do that.
Practice in kind of. That's great.
And they were, they were well educated, and they were being overseen by the psychiatrists. So, but now we have the positive alternatives counseling at Spindletop. So you can call there and make an appointment if you're interested. There's nothing better than to just find out. I believe we all have the answers inside of us. It's just getting the help that we need to find
connecting the dot from what you are now to what you could be.
Right. Sure. Or our purpose. We all have a purpose. And that self-fulfillment comes from within.
It comes from introspection. Yeah.
And if we realize that, like I said, the solution for many is the substances.
Yeah.
Or I have to take, growing up in a generation where you're always taking something for everything. Okay, well, here, take this.
You mean our generation?
Yeah.
yeah. You mean the Ritalin generation?
Yeah. Take this, take that. And so now, how do you break that? How do you say, "Oh, I can do it without it"? I mean, it's almost
that's really
hard to believe.
Yeah. My mom, I actually grew up. Let's see, when I was probably until I was 2, my mom was a nurse, and then 2 on, my mom's been a pharmacy technician, like just working in a pharmacy. And her motto seems to be like better living through chemistry. So I've grown up and become who I am now with like almost like a vile hatred for medicine. Like,
well, and you've
every
probably
time,
seen the abuse side of it.
I definitely have.
How it. I'll tell you. I'll share a personal
falsely
experience.
Diagnosed when I was a kid. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like my mom actually had Munchausen's by proxy when I was a child. So like I was always,
That's interesting.
It is very interesting. So now I can't stand even taking ibuprofen.
Yeah. So
You know what
you're
I mean?
like all way on the other end.
Yeah.
Of
Like I just
right.
hate it. Yeah. I can't
Yeah.
stand medicine at all. So that's a really interesting thing too. And I feel like I am part of that generation where it was like, oh, something's like let's just write a script for that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Well, I
realized
know
mine
that
was,
I've
like, very
experienced
skewed,
with
but-
my grandson and even my son, who's 28 now. My grandson was diagnosed with ADHD in like first grade, and we went back and forth with should we try medication or not, and we did, and he did really well for about 4 years, and then it started not doing well.
That's exactly my situation.
And
Yeah.
so now he's a freshman, and he is managing his symptoms. New school year in high school, so he's kind of having to share with his teachers that he, has this diagnosis.
Right.
And not as
It's
a
like, it's
cop
hard for me to
out,
pay
but
attention
No, it's like,
sometimes,
hey,
yeah.
so that you understand that
Yeah.
it's not behavioral, that I am not really
I'm
trying
not
to
doing
be
this
rude,
intentionally,
although I'm
yeah.
doing this all day
Yeah.
long. you
Yeah.
know? But my son, when I was younger, I can see now in my grandson the same things with my son, but I was not even open to any of that.
Sure.
I had
No.
no idea. I just thought he
You
was
were
just
you had no education on the
wild
matter, really.
kid,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so now I could see how good education can be for, and we all have a right to choose. They have a whole thing about ADHD of non-medication solutions. And I just think that it's a very personal thing for people with choosing med management or not, or seeing what works for you and what doesn't. Some medications like antidepressants aren't meant forever for the most part. I think we look at about a 1 or 2 year window to really help you get.
Yeah, most of them are just meant for a
But it
short
may
time.
not be,
Yeah.
you may. And it's kind of a hit and miss. I mean, you're looking at age and
anxieties as well. They're
Right.
just, some of them are just short term.
right.
those
Well,
solutions.
it's meant to be. Yes,
Meant to be, yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
But the main thing is learning those coping skills
Right.
and getting that belief system and learning how to recover. And we even have a peer support program with Spindletop for those who have successfully went through services and are doing really good and want to help other peers.
Oh wow.
So
So if
and
they
we
have a
actually-
good experience with it, then they can
Yeah,
come
we actually
back.
hire them to be supportive to those who are coming in, kind of walk them through the trenches, if you will, of getting into services. And I mean, we have all these wonderful things in place. To
No,
help.
we really do. And whenever we had Steve Fitzner, he was great and showed
He brought his DSM
every time.
too.
Yeah, every
I
time
was
we
like, let me take this.
every time we talk to anyone from Spindletop, we're always blown away by all the different things that they do. And this is, I mean, I know it's a private company. We're not being paid by Spindletop or anything to say that, but it really is like it's an impressive company. And
Well, we are the local mental health authority
Right.
for Jefferson County, and it's been a blessing. I mean, I get paid to help people. I mean, what a better job.
I think
to have.
this area is really lucky to have that place and have the people working there because everybody that we've talked to from there has been great. They very knowledgeable. You as well, and it's just I've been really impressed with it. Like
Well,
it's been.
It's an interesting evolution. Like when you think back to like the Kellogg Institute or something to where we are now, or even if you just think back to like the state hospital at Rusk,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like read about that, and then
And they're
see-
still there, and we
Yeah.
work with them as well.
Yeah, I
know.
just mean like think about
Back in the
60
day.
years
How
ago.
yeah,
there.
that's what I was talking
Right,
about.
yeah.
The asylum and
Right, the asylum
locking
and-
them up and
being committed,
over
and all that.
medicating
Right.
them, and who knows what else happened to them.
One flew over the cuckoo's nest situation. You know,
It's seeing this big push
scariest
for
movie ever made.
It's the big push for understanding, compassion, and also sharing the understanding with the rest of the world, like through the connections with the police department, and that's what we need. We need as many eyes and as many minds being shown that it is something that we can deal with through understanding.
Right.
Right. And it's a new day. Back a long time ago, most of these things were dealt with by just sweeping them under the rug. Right.
Well, I think fear.
Yeah.
Many people are very fear-based,
Fear.
afraid
And
you're
shame.
going to catch it, afraid, you're going to
catch that alcoholism.
Yeah, I mean, really, afraid it's going to happen to you, or some feeling helpless and not knowing what to do. So that fear pushes people away. I don't know how to help them, and so what can I do? And it's really mainly just educating ourselves and becoming aware. I think with the hurricane, we just had our mental health symposium in Port Arthur.
It was the what was that called? The Hurricane Harvey?
Healing After Harvey.
Yeah. That's great.
So Steve and I were both on that panel.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And
there was flyers at the bar for a long time for that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And what we were talking about was how the hurricane, for me, it leveled the playing field because all of us became homeless or at imminent risk.
Yeah.
So now we were standing in lines.
It was the first time I've heard of survivor's guilt. The people who didn't have their houses flooded and their neighbor lost everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And so that was an eye opener for a lot of people.
And talking to neighbors, taking people into our homes that we didn't even talk to, and making relationships, and standing in lines for hours to get groceries, and talking to people, and what are you doing? And, I mean, all of a sudden the stigma was reduced. We were all homeless, so no more was it. Now we're all open and helping each other, and it's created these wonderful bonds in our community. I mean, how do you say that something as tragic as that, and even they're going through it right now in the Carolinas, can help build what has come of that?
Yeah, it goes back to that sense of community. Yeah,
because we have to start at home.
Right.
It starts with us. If we can't help ourselves, how can we ever help anyone else? So,
and that puts a perfect little bow on it. I think we're good.
Bow tie.
I'm happy, man. This is a very positive episode.
It's been good. Yeah.
It's definitely cheered up my outlook on that whole situation, especially in our area, and that's great.
Yeah.
Good.
I love having conversations like these where we come in, sit down, and I kind of have something in my head where I'm like, okay, I think this is how it's going to go. We'll just talk about alcoholism and stuff like that, and we just branch out. Yeah. Because that's the beauty of having a conversation, right? This wasn't an interview. I have this pad here. I don't even have anything written down on it.
Right.
So everything that happened was authentic.
Right. I don't have any notes.
Right.
I brought my book, but I didn't even open
it. So I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say I hope somebody learned anything, but maybe hopefully
I learned something.
But if somebody maybe changed somebody's idea or made them think a different way, then I think it's been a success.
It has been a success. And thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much,
It's my
DeAnn.
pleasure.
We appreciate it. And thank you to Spindletop for
sending us people.
Yeah, giving us you for 2 hours or something. So,
all right. Great.
Well, thanks
Pleasure
for listening,
to be
everybody.
Here.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm drowning in a whiskey river, bathing my memory mind in the wetness of its soul.
I said, fuck it, I'm gonna play the whole verse.
Feeling the amber current flowing from my mind.
It's the GOAT.
It's the GOAT.
It's the GOAT.
We don't make hits, we make standards.
We make standards, man. All right, if you couldn't tell my theme, Aaron?
No, I can tell. Good musical choices.
We want to thank DeAnn for coming and sitting and talking to us, for taking time out of our day. We also want to thank the Spindletop Center for continuing to provide all the mental health care for this area and doing such a good job at it.
And sending us good guests.
Yeah, sending us good guests. Just a reminder, their crisis hotline is 1-800-937-8097. If you have yourself, or if anyone you know, a loved one, is going through a hard time, whether depression, addiction, or anything like that, tell them to call that hotline, man. These guys are here to help, and they're not here to judge.
They're not going to judge you.
DeAnn had her own experiences. She's sober. Right. She was homeless. She had all these things happen, and she is there helping. That
was the coolest thing about this episode is just the humanization of people. So, just call them. It ain't no big deal. On a lighter note, we want to give a special shout out to our patrons over on Patreon: Jordan Stringer, Lance Killian, Brian Castino, and Doug Waldrop.
Yeah, thank you guys. You help us make this happen.
Y'all holding it down.
Yeah.
Y'all hold it down for us, and we love you. If you're interested in becoming a patron like those guys, head on over to patreon.com/A to Z BMT.
And I just want to say our next episode is not going to come out for a little while because we have a special event that we're going to do for A to Z Movie Night. It's going to be the 13 Nights of Halloween.
Yeah.
So every day leading up to, from the 19th up to the 31st, we're going to be releasing an A to Z
Episodes
movie night.
dropping, dog.
Yeah, we're going to drop them all over the place. We got a lot of special prizes we're giving away.
We can't do an episode, a normal episode in that same time.
But a teaser for the next one that's going to be coming from us will be the beginning of November. It's going to be Beaumont City Councilman Ward 2, Mike Getz.
Yeah, hopefully that one's going to be controversial.
Yeah, it might be controversial, but it's leading up to the elections on November 9th.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're all going to be voting. You're all registered in Texas, but that will be a more political episode. Maybe we can get Julia in on it somehow.
Maybe so. That'd be great.
That'd be interesting. But as always, I want to thank you guys for listening. We hope you enjoy, and I love you.
All right, see you guys on the next episode. Yeah, all right, bye. Yeah.
Man, it's that country fun.
Whiskey River, take my mind.
Yeah. Vote Beto, y'all. Willie will.
Beto is a tool, though.
Kind of.
I think it's a tool.
Really?
Yeah, I do. You don't think he's a tool? He's a politician, dude.
Kind of, yeah. Anyway, bye, y'all.